WWE made a decision they immediately regretted. A veteran performer suddenly disappeared, backlash erupted across the internet, and within just 1 week, WWE did a complete 180, bringing him back and transforming his image completely. This wasn't just a storyline twist. It was a real mistake WWE couldn't hide, and now fans know exactly how it all went down. Here's the full story of WWE's chaotic release and rebranding of R-Truth, and why this might be one of the fastest turnarounds in company history. If you're new here, make sure to like the video and subscribe. We bring you the latest stories, behind-the-scenes updates, and everything happening in the world of WWE. On June 1st, longtime WWE performer Ron Killings, known to most fans as R-Truth, publicly confirmed that he was no longer part of the company. It came out of nowhere. There was no build-up, no final segment, no retirement angle, just a quiet end to one of WWE's longest-running careers. Fans were blindsided. R-Truth had been a constant in WWE programming for decades. He brought energy, humor, and unpredictability to every show. Even in his 50s, he was one of the most entertaining and agile performers on the roster. But now he was gone. Just like that. Behind the scenes, sources reported that this release wasn't an accident. It was part of a larger corporate shift happening inside WWE following its merger with UFC under the Endeavor banner. The new parent company, TKO Group Holdings, had started reevaluating contracts and slashing costs. Longtime performers with high salaries who weren't involved in current storylines were now at risk. R-Truth was one of them. His release marked a clear signal. Loyalty wasn't enough under the new system. The backlash was immediate and intense. Fans flooded social media, questioning WWE's decision. For a performer who had remained relevant for decades without controversy, the reaction wasn't just about nostalgia, it was about value. The audience felt WWE had made an ungrateful move by cutting a fan favorite with no warning or recognition. WWE's own community began turning against them. Live shows started to feel the pressure. Crowds chanted his name during unrelated segments, refusing to ignore the release. Reddit threads discussing the decision climbed to the top of the site. Video compilations celebrating his greatest moments gained traction across YouTube. In the locker room, the mood reportedly shifted too. Fellow performers, both past and present, expressed disappointment. Some hinted that they had no idea this was coming. Others suggested that this was just one more example of how quickly things could change under TKO's leadership. What was supposed to be a quiet business decision had turned into a public relations disaster. Executives reportedly justified the release with cost-cutting logic. WWE was undergoing restructuring. Several departments were being streamlined, and aging talents not directly tied to top-tier merchandise or ticket sales were labeled non-essential. From a corporate point of view, R-Truth wasn't in a championship storyline. He wasn't headlining premium live events. His segments, though entertaining, didn't directly drive revenue. That made him vulnerable. But what the decision-makers didn't factor in was his irreplaceable role as a bridge between eras. He was the only wrestler who had consistently performed across 3 decades, adapting to each generation without losing the crowd. And this wasn't just about business. It was about fan perception. WWE had underestimated just how much goodwill this performer had earned. That miscalculation would become obvious just 6 days later. On June 7th, during Money in the Bank, the unexpected happened. R-Truth appeared in the main event, interrupting a high-profile tag team match involving John Cena, Logan Paul, Cody Rhodes, and Jey Uso. His interference completely shifted the match's momentum, shocking fans and commentators alike. What confused people even more was the timing. Just 6 days earlier, he was publicly released. Now he was standing in the ring on one of WWE's biggest shows of the year, and no explanation was offered. Commentary didn't clarify it. The company didn't post about it online before the show. Fans were left trying to make sense of it in real time. Some assumed this was all part of a long-term storyline. Others believed WWE had orchestrated a fake release just to build buzz for this return. But Backstage reports told a very different story. Sources began leaking what really happened. The performer's release was legitimate. It wasn't part of any angle. There were no long-term plans to bring him back. But the backlash had been stronger than expected. Executives at the highest level were reportedly alarmed at how quickly the fan base turned on them. One name that came up repeatedly was Nick Khan. The WWE CEO, known for operating with a business-first mindset, allegedly took notice of the growing outrage and pushed for a reversal. The plan to cut costs was backfiring, and the PR damage was starting to outweigh the financial savings, so WWE made a fast call. They reached out, renegotiated, and scheduled his appearance at Money in the Bank at the last minute. The match he interfered in wasn't originally designed for him. His return was plugged into an existing storyline just to get him back on TV quickly. What started as a cold, calculated cost-saving move had now become a desperate attempt to patch things up before things got worse. When the performer returned, he didn't come back as R-Truth. On the following episode of Raw, he walked into the arena with a completely new presentation. No more bright gear, no more comedic skits. The dreadlocks were gone, and the name on the screen read Ron Killings. It was a symbolic reset. The comedy was over. The character that fans had known for over a decade was being retired. In his place stood a serious, grounded figure. No jokes, no distractions. WWE quickly followed up with new merchandise under the Ron Killings name. New graphics were introduced. The announcers stopped referring to him by his old nickname. The rebrand was complete. This wasn't just a character evolution, it was an attempt to justify the chaos. WWE wanted to show that his return wasn't a step backward. It was being framed as a new era, a new mission, a final chapter. But fans who had followed the timeline knew exactly what this was. Damage control. So why did WWE bring him back so quickly? Because they realized they had underestimated the situation. They treated his role as expendable, only to learn just how critical he had become to their brand identity. It wasn't about ratings, it wasn't about selling t-shirts, it was about connection. In a time where WWE has struggled to balance business moves with storytelling consistency, they forgot that some performers are more than just characters. They are trusted by the audience. They represent history, loyalty, and continuity. Releasing someone like that without ceremony or warning looked heartless, and no amount of creative spin could change that. Bringing him back was the only option left. Now back as Ron Killings, the performer appears to be heading into a more grounded and emotional arc. There's no comedy, no illusions, just a serious presence, one that fans are finally seeing in a new light. But this situation exposed a major weakness in WWE's current system. The lines between reality and fiction have blurred so much that even genuine decisions are being doubted by fans. Every release, every return, is now seen as part of some bigger plan, even when it's not. This isn't just a creative problem. It's a trust problem, and WWE learned that the hard way. The performer they tried to quietly remove ended up becoming one of the most talked about names in the company, without saying a single word in the ring. Sometimes, silence is louder than a promo. In just 1 week, WWE made a decision, watched it blow up, and scrambled to fix it. They turned a misstep into a storyline, a release into a rebranding, and a backlash into an opportunity. But at its core, this was never about storyline. It was about respect and the consequences of forgetting what really keeps fans watching. WWE knew they messed up, and they fixed it. But not because they wanted to, because they had to.